Hi guys, it's Maria and the Mindfulness Base. In this video, I want to talk about negative emotions and feelings and how mindfulness can help us work and deal with them. Negative emotions are nasty. No one likes them. Fear, anxiety, anger, jealousy, whatnot. So many annoying things. And we have invented so many ways of not feeling them. In fact, one of the most typical strategies for working with these emotions is just trying to escape them. So maybe drown yourselves in substances or fun or work or just anything that takes your mind away from how you are actually feeling. And although there's plenty of ways you could do it, and it could work to some extent and make you happier when you are unhappy, but in the long term, this strategy just doesn't work because you cannot just unfeel an emotion when you want to, and you cannot delay it or put it off and feel it kind of later. It will chase you and hunt you down. Or instead of that, you could choose to just act on all of your emotions, and in fact you can see some people doing that. They do whatever they please, they act on every impulse, and that's also not okay, because very often it becomes very annoying to everyone around them and it gives them a bad reputation. So if you don't want to act on every emotional impulse, you could instead try and suppress the emotion, which is another strategy. And we are all actors when we have to be. Generally, living in the society forces people to act in a certain way even when they're feeling something completely different. And to some extent you could get away with it. It might as well save your life in some situation, but it's definitely not a long-term strategy. First, because you cannot unfeel a feeling when you're feeling it. It just doesn't work this way. And then when you suppress the feelings, they tend to bottle up inside you and then result in all sorts of deep emotional turmoil and all kinds of psychological problems that we really don't need and could have been totally avoided if we were in better contact with our feelings to begin with. And then another problem that you might face is that when we try to conceal our emotions from other people, we become also too good at hiding them from ourselves. And when we don't know what exactly we are feeling and why we are feeling it, it just makes things much more complicated. Of course, there are also certain social expectations about what emotions can be felt and what emotions can be shown. For example, we know that women are perceived more negatively when they show anger. And some emotions like fear or anxiety could be seen as not very suitable for real men. And this doesn't lighten our burden, because additionally to the difficult emotion that you are feeling, you are also adding a layer of extra emotions, the so-called meta emotions, the emotions that we are feeling about the emotions that we are having. Such as, for example, feeling anxiety when you're starting to feel anxiety. Oh no, everyone's going to notice that I'm anxious. What are they going to think about me? Are they going to label me as some kind of an anxious person? Oh no, I'm getting anxious now. I'm not going to be able to say anything. Are you familiar with this type of feeling? Or how about feeling guilt and shame about feeling anger? Even though sometimes anger is the only logical reaction to what is happening. But the truth is that feelings and emotions are a natural part of being human. And the very reason why we have them is that because they have served us a really good purpose during the years of evolution. And it is especially the negative emotions which are very important for our defense, for our very survival. So we'd better have some respect. And although we do call them negative emotions, and even though we would probably rather feel less of them than more of them, we should also remember that they are actually part of us. They are part of our psyche, and in a way they are our best friends, because they show us when we need to take care of ourselves. Just like a physical pain or ache in the body can communicate to us that something is wrong and we need to take care of it, in the same way emotions like fear, anger, sadness, or whatnot can be a signal that something is wrong in the situation where we are, that something's not right. Of course, as natural mechanisms, our emotions do not exactly work like a NASA computer. Sometimes we can feel something just because of some memory or association, or because of our hormones, or because we have only eaten a muffin for lunch. And there are also differences among individuals in terms of their different psychological makeover, in how well we can recover from emotions, in how deeply they touch us, etc. American neuroscientist Richard Davidson, in his book The Emotional Life of Your Brain, talks about this type of makeover, which he developed based on different neurological markers, in other words, on what you can see happening in the brain. And he developed 6 different scales on which we can judge someone's psychological makeover. And they are resilience, so how well you recover from an emotional turmoil; outlook, which can range from positive to negative; social intuition; self-awareness, sensitivity to context; and attention. And neither end of each of these ranges is solely good or bad. In a sense, if you are more emotionally sensitive, that also makes you better at attuning to other people's feelings. So instead of thinking of it as your flaw, you could as well see it as a superpower. So if trying to escape an emotion is not a good strategy, and then suppressing and bottling up emotions also doesn't work in the long run, and then acting on them might lead to disasters, and we know that too well, so what do we do, you might ask? And with this, mindfulness practice actually offers us many different ways. First of all, many mindfulness exercises can actually change your individual psychological makeover, because it is also bound to change. Exercises like metta, loving kindness, so feeling and generating loving kindness and compassion to all the people, including yourself, or even especially to yourself, can lead you to a more balanced and generally a more resilient emotional makeover. But on top of that, there is also a simple tool which you can use to work with an emotion as you are experiencing it. It consists of 4 steps, but I will start with number 2, and then I will go back to number 1 at the end. So the second one, and a very important one, is to actually acknowledge, accept, and allow the emotion that you're feeling. Allow yourself to really experience it without any self-depreciation or without any shame, just purely. And it is important to understand that whatever you're feeling is okay, and you have every right to be feeling that. Whenever you are experiencing a negative emotion, there is usually a good reason why it is happening, and it is not your fault, but actually your psyche's inherent natural defense mechanism. Number 3 is investigate, observe, show some interest to how it manifests. You can shift your attention to the body or to the possible thoughts and patterns, dialogues that these emotions is bringing up, and especially looking at the sensory level, because this is where most of our emotions reside and happen. You can try to locate the emotion, to try to see where it is happening, how. Try to observe whether it is stable or whether it is changing. And when you see the physical composition of the emotion and the thoughts and thought patterns which it is accompanied by, and you observe their fleeting nature, their changeability, their contingency, it actually makes you more aware that this emotion is not going to last. It's not something fixed. It's not a sentence of any kind. And this way it loses its grab over you. And number 4 is do not identify with this emotion. And this one simply boils down to the fact that we are not our emotions. They are not sentences, they do not define us as people. They do not make us good or bad. And even though our mind tends to label emotions like good or bad, like or dislike, I want more of that, or I don't want any of that, actual emotions are very natural and they have their own purpose that they serve in our psyche. Of course, they are doing it as well as they can, and even though the difficult emotions that we might be facing at the moment when we are facing them are perfectly real, what they are telling us is not always 100% true. And this way we can feel even a strong emotion, but without being utterly and fully 100% consumed by it, under control of this emotion. And this way we can avoid the consequences of suppressing and bottling it up, or just blindly acting on it. Our emotions are there to guide us and guide our behavior, instead not just induce us to act on every impulse. And when we listen to our emotions, at the same time preserving some sober distance from them, we are also better able at communicating what we are feeling to other people without turning a conflict situation into a potential disaster. And although ultimately we cannot control the reactions of other people, the actions of other people, and the circumstances in our life, but we do have some control over our actions and reactions. And this way we can make sure that we don't get ourselves hurt, and also don't get anyone else get hurt. So what is number 1? I left number 1 for the end because this one is easier said than done. Number 1 is to recognize the emotion when it happens. And very often we are so busy running through our lives that we actually we just miss the moment when the emotion happens. Therefore, driven by its impulse, we usually end up acting in one of our habitual ways, either just acting on the emotion, or not showing it, suppressing it, or maybe trying to escape the situation and distract ourselves with something. And we never get the chance to really apply this strategy of accepting, investigating, and then non-identifying with the emotion. To really be able to use this advice, we need to learn to be attuned to our internal emotional state, and as well as to our physical state, because this is where emotions happen. Learning to recognize what is happening right now, how we are feeling right now, what we are sensing right now, is a skill that we developed in our mindfulness practice. And it is a long road, but you will start feeling the effects with every step. So this tool is an acronym RAIN. Recognition, allowing, accepting, acknowledging, investigating, interest, and non-identification, the last one. So this RAIN tool was introduced first by a mindfulness teacher, Michelle McDonald, and then it was popularized by another mindfulness teacher and a clinical psychologist, Tara Brach. And you can find a lot of information on this tool straight from the horse's mouth, and learn how to apply it in your day-to-day life as well as in your mindfulness practice to be better at it when you are actually experiencing one of those negative emotions. So if you found this video helpful, don't hesitate to like it and click this subscribe button. This way you won't miss my further videos. Thank you for watching, and see you later.